Oh, baby, it's about time we're getting some of those cats here in the Masterverse line. Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan. Thank you for joining me for another video here on the channel. Before we dive into things real quick, if you enjoy what you see here today, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my videos. New York Toy Fair is coming up, which means we're gonna have a whole bunch of coverage of new toy stuff very, very soon. But today, we're talking Masters of the Universe. We're talking Masterverse, new Eternia, with the release of the Mattel Creations Panthor figure. So this was a drop which was exclusive to Mattel Creations. Just within the past week, it shipped out pretty much immediately. I was surprised at how fast I got it. I guess it's within the last couple weeks here. But the important thing is the cat's here. We're gonna dive in and take a look at it. So without further ado, let's check out the Masterverse new Eternia Panthor. All right, let's go ahead and start with the packaging here, which, as you can see, features some absolutely gorgeous artwork on here. Shout out to my buddy, Eamon O'Donoghue, who nailed this beautiful piece of art on this packaging. I just love the overall look of this one. I think it is awesome. You've got Panthor here in some sort of a jungle type setting. Is this back here? Is this the Snake Fortress? Is that what's going on there? Really interesting stuff. If you come down on the front of the box, you can see we've also got Mechanic back in the background there. You can see his shadow. Up here on the top, you can see a Skeletor riding on a dragon or some sort of beast. It's just a really, really cool box. Rotating around to the backside, that beautiful artwork continues where you can see Mechanic is now standing face to face in combat against Panthor and Skeletor. And now it looks almost like they might be inside of that Snake Fortress. I'm not entirely sure what the setting is, but I do know that I love the artwork on this box. I also really like this. Original designs inspired by classic concepts. It's the perfect way to explain what the new Eternia subset of the Masterverse line is all about. Now, this is a really interesting box because it almost works like a shoe box. You got a flap that folds open where we got a little bio for Panthor hidden underneath that flap, and then folding it open is how we access the figure within. Now, first of all, we do have some really cool line work of Panthor right there on the inside lid, and then more beautiful artwork inside the box, this time showing Skeletor riding on Panthor away from this Snake Fortress looking place. Really cool stuff. Just gorgeous. I just love the overall like ambiance and feel of this artwork. I think it is just really, really nice. So this is like a cover that can be removed, this piece of artwork there, which is awesome because this will also act as a backdrop, as you can see, on the back side of that artwork. So this was that side with Panthor and Skeletor. The inside, or the back here, this like nice backdrop has got this beautiful, like really colorful sky. You've got Snake Mountain there. It's just a really, really cool landscape. So that would work as like a great display piece on your shelf behind your figures if you want to do something like that. I think that's really nice. And then we've got the figure itself, which you can see inside of this box here. We can just remove this piece of cardboard right here, this little strip. And then we've got all these ties that we're going to have to cut to get the actual cat out of the box. So I'm going to work on doing that right now. But overall, I really like the packaging here. All right, so here is our Panthor opened up outside of the box. This is just a really cool looking figure. I gotta tell you that. Just removing it from the packaging, it is so striking with the deco that is on here. So historically, at least if we're talking about like vintage Panthor and versions we've had since, Panthor is typically a flocked toy, meaning he's got the fuzz put on him, right? And that's always the way I've kind of preferred Panthor because it's a nostalgia thing. That's the way the vintage figure was. And I always felt like that was kind of missing from other versions, even though I understand why you wouldn't put flocking on it. If it's supposed to be an adult collectible with like a good sculpt and everything, I get it. I get it. But what they did here is really interesting because this time, they chose to give Panthor this metallic purple paint deco. And it's really wild. Like, I was so surprised by just how shiny he looks once I removed him from that packaging. And I can see this being a bit of a polarizing thing, to be perfectly honest. Like, I'm willing to bet that there are plenty of people out there who don't like that he's metallic and shiny. I think it's kind of cool. It's cool as something different for Panthor, and I think it looks really good, especially when matched up with that same metallic deco on the saddle, but it's done in like this really nice kind of shiny green, and you can see that it actually looks a little worn. There's like some silver showing through on like some worn spots. I don't know. I think it's very cool looking. And the sculpting is really nice on here too. Like, this saddle's fantastic. It's all new. I love kind of the rocky texture that you could see on the seat part. I love the little skulls and the bats and the horns. All of that stuff I think just looks really cool and definitely has that MOTU feel to it. It looks like a villain's cat, a villain's piece of armor. I think it's awesome. Now let's talk about the face on this thing, because holy cow, I was not expecting the eyes to look like this. Now, if you saw my video on some of the more recent Masterverse New Eternia figures, Merman was one of my favorites. It was a standout. And one of the things they did on that Merman that I thought was so cool was the way they did the eyes, where it almost has this glass eyes look to it. They did the same thing with Panthor here, which is not something I was expecting. So it almost has that kind of trick where it looks like it's following you when you look at them from different directions. It's a really cool look. It works great on this figure. And this is the other thing that's really neat. There's an action feature that I didn't know we were going to be getting. When you open his mouth, watch the top teeth there. Look at that. Look at that. The teeth basically retract. He could actually bare his teeth. So, you know, when you close the mouth, they'll push back up. When you open the mouth, they drop down. You can even pull them down a little bit further so you can see the gums above his teeth, which gives him just a really ferocious look. I think that is super fun. And again, not something I was expecting. So I was totally surprised by that when I first pulled him out of the packaging and started messing around with him. Now, one of the things we definitely need to talk about with this guy is the body here, because I think the assumption a lot of us had was that this was just a retread of the Revelation Battle Cat from a few years ago. I'm going to go and take the saddle off here so we can get a better look at the body. You can see how I just did the straps there. They actually hold very nice. So it's a bit of a pliable, soft saddle. But, you know, I still think it's nicely made. It doesn't feel cheap or anything like that. And again, I love the sculpting on there. And then for this part, we are going to go ahead and bring up that Revolution Battle Cat without his armor on so that we can take a look at it. Now, let me see if I can get a good way to show these guys side by side so you can see it. Because I think, from the way I'm looking at things, a lot of this does appear to be reused between the two cats. The body itself does appear to be the same. The tails appear to be the same. I think the legs are the same, but the paws are different. So the paws are brand new. You could really tell that because Battle Cat actually has like a thumb on his front paws, which is missing on the Panthor ones. The Panthor ones also look bigger. A little bit more fierce looking. So we got new feet for sure. The head is obviously completely new on Panthor. That's a brand new sculpt there. Much more ferocious looking. But it does look like a lot of the base body does come from Battle Cat. I looked really closely at the legs. But even like the bottom, like I could tell right away that the tops of the legs were the same. I looked at like the forearms basically on there. They do look the same to me. I think everything else about this is reused from Battle Cat. So it's worth pointing that out. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. because I think that Battle Cat's one of the best figures in the early Masterverse line. I thought it was really well made. And I will say that this figure here feels fantastic. The articulation is really solid on this guy. He's nice and tight, and the motion seems fluid. You can see the way the articulation in the body works. It's like double jointed in the torso here, so you can curve his body around. You can see the legs have the ability to go in and out, forwards and backwards. You got the nice bends at the knees, and all of these joints are really tight in here too, which is great for a figure like this because you want to make sure that he can hold himself up, but he can also hold a figure on his back, right? That is very, very important. So let me get the armor back on here. Man, he's just a good-looking cat. Seriously, with that armor there, he's awesome. Now, he does come with another piece to kind of complete the look of this version of Panthor, and that is his very own helmet. Now, Panthor, historically, did not have a helmet. The original figure in the original line, no helmet. I think the first time we really saw him get a helmet was in the Masters of the Universe Classics line, and that's where he was introduced to the helmet that had the huge ram horns on the top that was similar to Skeletor's Havoc Staff. And if you even go back and watch back then, I was never a huge fan of that, but I know people really liked it, and that's great. And it definitely became the norm for Panthor for a long time. This helmet is like a brand new take, and I gotta say, I am more partial to this look right here. So you can see it's a bit of a softer pliable plastic, just like the saddle, but this does fit nicely on his head, and I like it because it's got a bit more of an actual Battle Cat look to the helmet. But it is modified for Panthor, where it does still have that ram horn kind of look to it, but instead of being up on the top, it's coming down on the sides of the helmet. I like the spikes up here on the top. I think this just looks a lot more, I don't know if natural's the right word, but it definitely feels like it fits this character a lot better than the one with the horns on top. Now again, if you are into the one with the horns on top, that is totally cool. That's just my own personal opinion. I never really liked that. So if we're gonna put a helmet on Panthor, I do really like this one. Now, to be perfectly honest, I'll probably display him without the helmet altogether because that's my Panthor. But I do like this helmet. I think that is a really cool look for him. Now, he also comes with this spear accessory, which is a new accessory as far as I can tell. It's got a little skull on there. I'd assume that this is a weapon for Skeletor as he's holding it on the box. I don't know if it's based on anything specific per se, so if you know, feel free to let me know. But let's go ahead and get Skeletor in here so we can get a look at him with his cat. This is the Skeletor from the throne. And I don't know, I like this Skeletor. I think he's pretty cool looking. And looking at the figure standing next to Panthor, first of all, this shows you how big Panthor is, because this is a 7-inch action figure over here, and Panthor is massive still. So let's put Skeletor on his back. Okay, see, this is just a cool look. This looks amazing. I love the size of this entire look here. Panthor is massive. Skeletor sits nicely on the saddle. You can see that you can adjust the little foot straps here, the stirrups, to fit over the foot of Skeletor there. But I think this looks incredible. I really, really like this. With the helmet on, I also think he's a really good match for that new Eternia battle armor Skeletor, which is a figure I still really like the look of. And I don't know, even with his armor being like slightly pearlized and metallic, it matches this Panthor really, really well. So again, it's just giving us some new, different looks for these classic characters, and that's something I can really appreciate. All right, the last thing I feel is important to do is a little bit of comparison time. So we already looked at the Revolution Battle Cats, but we have to also look at the Masters of the Universe Classics Panthor alongside this. Now, the cats in the MOTU Classics line are absolutely gorgeous. Like, the sculpts are beautiful on those, and they are still, ranked up there as some of the best, if not the best versions of these characters. But I think it's really interesting looking at these side by side because I think both of these figures are really good. You can see how much bigger the Masterverse version is. This also really shows how different the purples are with the paint decos. And I will say, Like, the sculpts were amazing on the cats in the classics line, but one thing that they always struggled with was the articulation in the legs. They were always a little loose. A lot of people have always had problems with them staying standing, and we definitely don't have that with this new Eternia one, at least not right now. The joints are all very tight here, so he's definitely sturdier feeling than this one. But again, this is just like comparing two very cool looking cat toys next to each other, specifically to show you the difference between these figures. So there you guys go, a look at the new Masterverse, new Eternia version of Panthor. All in all, I really like this figure. I think it's a really well-made toy. Yes, there is a lot of parts reuse from the Revelation Battle Cats, but I do feel like that Battle Cat was a pretty nice figure. I understand why they would reuse most of those parts for this, but it is worth noting for anybody out there who wants to know if it's just got a lot of reused parts on there. The new stuff is really cool. I like the new paint deco. I like the new helmet. Overall, I think it's a really nice cat figure, and I really hope this means we're gonna get a proper new Eternia Battle Cat figure to follow. The Revelation one is great, but I want like a proper, like mean, hefty looking, new Eternia style Battle Cat. So I hope that that figure is on the way. So as I mentioned, this was a Mattel Creations exclusive. As of the filming of this video, it is still in stock. It retails for $40, which is on par with what figures like this go for. In fact, I feel like that's a decent price for this. Thinking back to the Masters of the Universe Classic figures, I think the cats in that line were $30, and that was a decade ago at this point. So I don't know, $40 seems okay by today's standards for a big cat figure, and it's really nicely made. It's hefty. I don't know. I think it's a fun toy. If it's something that looks like you would enjoy, you can go check it out for yourself over at MattelCreations.com. Hey, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think we got more cats on the way? You think this means Battle Cat is coming? Do you wish they would have done a lot more unique sculpting on this? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Sound off down below. And of course, as always, thank you guys so very much for watching. Until next time, my friends.